What up, guys? Welcome in. We're back again. We are trying out live for the first time here. We get this thing started right away. We're going to go right into drafting Underdog Fantasy. That's where we're at. Let's pull this up here. And we're going to get into BBM. If you guys want to try to jump in, whoever is watching on, we are going to be drafting from Underdog Fantasy, and that's BBM6. We are currently waiting for 5 people. Let's see here. I'm going to start messaging some more people, letting them know to hop on. All right. We are now under a minute before this draft starts. We are drafting from the 11th hole. Let's see. Who do we have here that I might recognize? Not many. No, I don't think a lot of these names are familiar. Most of the people I've seen a lot throughout the year in these best ball streets are pretty much done maxing out their best ball manias, which is 150. So if you ever have a chance to max out best ball mania, I did not do that this year. I am nowhere near that. I'm at 40, I believe, 40, 41. I was trying to get to 50 before Thursday. We'll see how that looks. All right, draft is starting. Let us put this board up here. See how interesting this gets. This is so much different when you go live. All right, CeeDee Lamb at 3. That's a little bit different from what I'm used to. Let's see. All right, Nico Collins at 7. Okay. That's interesting. Christian McCaffrey at 6. Malik Neighbors at 8. Justin Jefferson at 9. Wow. That is someone who keeps dropping. All right, we are on the clock. See who we have here. Let's go Genty. We're gonna go running back here. Let me see what Pimping. That's an interesting name. Decides to go here. We're gonna have one of these wide receivers. I'm perfectly fine with. And Puka is gone. That would have been perfect. Let's see. Kind of torn between Brian Thomas and Drake London. Let's go Drake. Drake is the guaranteed wide receiver 1 out in Atlanta. Brian Thomas Jr. obviously is a wide receiver 1 over there. But I am interested to see how his target share looks this year versus last year, where he was really he was getting everything thrown his way. Them drafting Travis Hunter this year brings some question marks, but Brian Thomas Jr. is easily the best wide receiver on that squad. But Liam Cohen is there. There's going to be some stuff changing there for sure on offense. When he was with Tampa as the offensive coordinator, You saw Mike. Obviously, we know how good Mike Evans is, and you started seeing Chris Godwin the first couple of weeks of the season. He was top 2 receiver in fantasy football, and you saw how quickly that changed everything for that squad. Would not surprise me if they found a way to get Travis Hunter involved early, especially with them slowing him in on defense. I think that he's not going to be a full-time player on defense. He'll be more part-time. But on offense, even if he runs about 40 to 50 routes for the year, I still think they're going to be very efficient routes, very designed just for him, which brings a little pause on the Brian Thomas Jr. and Drake London discussion that we were placed there. All right, we are seeing, who do we have? H.N., Brock Bowers, Bucky Irving, Trey McBride, Josh Jacobs, Chase Brown falling here to 22. We've been seeing him earlier. A.J. Brown's been falling. I saw someone mention about Justin Jefferson's hamstring is scaring people. I think the A.J. Brown, even though he said he's playing this Thursday, is something to be keeping an eye out for. But yeah, I'm not too worried about Justin Jefferson, honestly. I know he had those issues last year, but if you're getting him at pick number 9, that's huge. That kind of reminds me of the Jamar Chase situation last year, which wasn't in regards to injury. It was more due to a contract, but you were getting him right around there. And whoever took him obviously got quite literally the best player in the first round. And now, as we see, is the number 1 pick in most drafts. All right, Jaden Daniels before Josh Allen. I'm almost sure that this individual right here is probably pushing more of his or her exposure to Jaden Daniels. We have Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. There goes the quarterback run. Perfectly fine with that. Take a look here at who we're going to look at. We can look at playoff opponents, as we've talked about here in previous streams. Weeks 15, 16, and 17. Atlanta's Tampa Bay, Arizona Rams. We got a few of those guys here. And then Las Vegas, Philly, Houston, and the Giants. Who do we have? Let's go Mike Evans. I like Mike Evans for this format. Yeah. Especially with the news we already know of Jalen McMillan being out for the first. I don't know, he's going to be out for a good portion of the season. He's on IR, and then so is Chris Godwin. That leaves Mike Evans and then Emeka Egbuka. All right, we have George Kittle, Devontae Adams, Ted McMillan. Wow, the running back room is crazy. I do like Travion Henderson, but we are going to take a shot. You know what? We were talking about guys with opportunity. Let's get Ted McMillan here. That is someone I would like to take shots on. Yep. Jonathan Gomez. Ted's been climbing. He sure has, especially with all the recent news. Jalen Coker, about 2 to 3 days ago, was just put on the IR. That's going to help there. And again, I've mentioned before, he is a rookie, but they also drafted him early in the first round. He's going to be a big part of Dave Canellis' offense. All right, let's pull the board here. I always love seeing this. NFL Top 10 already sniping the Jaden Daniels owner right here, making sure he or she didn't get Terry McLaurin. One of my previous streams, right before we got as soon as we got the Terry McLaurin news, I was able to jump on and grab Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, and Deebo Samuel, which is very rare nowadays too. Not a common pairing you can get, and in drafts, even days before the NFL season kicks off, no one's going to let you do that. see here. Who else do we have in the chat? We got Andrew, my brother-in-law, big Puka guy. I had a chance. Yeah, no, I did have a chance. I got Genti instead of Puka Nakua. But Andrew's been someone I've been drafting with Best Ball Streets all year long. We've been drafting since January. It's been fun. It's crazy to finally see us come down to September 1st. And we're finally here. I'm excited to see all these teams and see if all our takes were actually really good or not. With a chance of winning $2 million, which is up top here underneath. I have the ticker going. That is my promo code. Underdog will match your first deposit. Make sure to put my promo code on the bottom, please. Let's see who we about to come up here. We have Ted McMillan. We have Mike Evans, Drake London, and I know the running backs were going crazy. Let's see, and they're continuing to go. I don't mind James Conner or even Tony Pollard here, to be honest. These are two guys. Looks like we're gonna have to jump on. And Mecca Ibuka just left. All right, that changes some things. Cool. Let's go with. See who we're gonna go with here. We needed an Arizona guy, I think, for our. Yeah. We got Tampa, Arizona. Yeah, let's take Drake London. I'm sorry, James Conner. And then we'll see who the best player on the board is. I wouldn't mind Tony Pollard here either. I like a lot of these wide receivers. Ricky Pearsall, Zay Flowers, and Tony Pollard just went. That's perfectly fine. We're not going to force anybody here. Let's see. I like Zay's really good. Rashee Rice. Let's go with Rome. I'm going to stay on brand. I have a lot of Rome Odunze, especially Chicago Bears exposure. We're going to go with Rome Odunze. Andrew, I got that for Rookie of the Year. They had him at plus 1,400 early in the year. Wow. Plus 1,400 is really nice, especially given the circumstances they have now. That is quite the move. I like that. I really do like that. Plus 1,400 is good, bro. All right, let's pull up the board again. Before we do, Ashton Genti at running back, James Conner at running back, both have bye week 8. Wide receivers, we have Drake London, Mike Evans, Ted McMillan, and Rome Odunze. We were just talking about the playoff opponents from week 15, 16, and 17. For Atlanta, we have a Tampa Bay player in Mike Evans, and then we have James Conner, who is an Arizona player. We would need a week 17 opponent who is a Rams player. So we'll definitely keep an eye out for that as we continue drafting here. This team feels like I might be looking at Penix later on. We'll see how that looks. All right, wide receiver are flying off the board. Good thing we already got our 4 receivers. TJ Hawkinson just went along with Jordan Addison. That individual is probably trying to get JJ McCarthy later to make sure they complete their stack. I want to mention I did release a video yesterday. If you guys can check that stream out and make sure to like the video, please. In that stream, I did something a little bit different than what I've done all year. I was able to draft 2 quarterbacks unstacked. I'll let y'all watch the video so you guys can see who those 2 are. Not many quarterbacks you can draft unstacked, in my personal opinion. And I was able to land both guys. So the draft went a little bit different, but it definitely makes me a bit contrarian given how these boards are looking now with ADP kind of settling in as we get closer to the season. Khalil Shakir. Okay, we are about to We're a few picks away. See who we have on the board. Running backs here. Montgomery, Aaron Jones, Caleb Johnson, Jordan Mason. I'm going to go running back here. I do like Montgomery. I know he's another bye week 8, but that's something I can change later. Then there he goes. That's perfectly fine. Let's see who we got. Let's go with Jordan Mason. I'm going to go Jordan Mason here. And then on this repo, I do like Aaron Jones, just for the record. I think Aaron Jones is great. I just like Aaron Jones more for a PPR format. I think Jordan Mason fits the half PPR format perfectly, especially if he becomes the goal line running back for them. I do believe he will be. All right. Tight end just went. That's awesome. All right, cool. We have Jawan Jennings intrigues me, especially with theirs. I like Keon Coleman. Let's go Keon Coleman. I want to add a little more of him. He's a guy I was very, very fond of coming out of college. Obviously, last year was his rookie year. Didn't have the year, I at least hoped and expected him to have. I do believe this might be the year for him. This offense that he's under, they spread the ball a lot with Josh Allen, but I think Keon Coleman becomes a big part of that offense very soon. Let's pull up the board here. Let's see. Mark Andrews, Caleb Johnson, Jawan Jennings. This is the other guy I was kind of going back and forth with. Jawan Jennings and Keon Coleman. You got Zach Charbonnet. We got Cooper Kupp. See, Cooper Kupp is the guy I'm not fond of for Underdog. Not at all. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he starts scoring more touchdowns, but I think that guy is Jackson Smith and Jigba out there, JSN. For Seattle, I'm not a fan of drafting him in this format as well. As early as we're getting him, he's more of a PPR guy for me. But I do love JSN for that offense. JSN's the focal point of that offense. JSN's going to be the guy. And they have a few other players that, we'll see how they turn out to be. But I think Seattle is going to be more of a run-heavy team. I think as long as Kenneth Walker stays healthy, he's going to be running the ball a lot. And then Charbonnet is going to fill in when needed as well. All right. TJ Hawkinson, Tucker Kraft. Yeah, tight ends are flying off the board. J.K. Dobbins. All right, let's take a look at what we have as we get closer to we got a few more picks before us. 8 picks away. We can go quarterback here. I do like Baker. If Baker ends up being here, I'm perfectly fine with that. We could stack him with Mike Evans. We have... I can go tight end here. I might go tight end. I kind of like this area. Do love Colston Loveland. If we get Colston Loveland and Rome Odunze, that's fine. I'm going to get Caleb Williams with that. Baker's gone. No surprise there. Baker should have been gone already, in my personal opinion. Jaden Reed has been falling due to his injury. He's usually hurt. There goes Evan Ingram. Let's see if I get a shot at a tight end. Okay. Kyler Murray. He might go quarterback here. Lucky B. Shane has 2 quarterbacks already, so let's see what we're working with here. Colston Loveland just goes right there. Yep, no shock. All right. Who do we have at tight end here? Wow, we're down to Njoku too. Let's see here. Let's go Caleb Williams. We're going to go Caleb Williams, and then we're going to try for Luther Burden here. There we go. Luther Burden. Shahi. Let's take a look here real quick. Yeah, we got Caleb. Yeah, we're going to get Rome and Luther Burden. I have mentioned before previous streams about my thought process when it comes to that Chicago receiving core. If at least a strategy I'm trying to do is if I do draft DJ Moore, I kind of avoid Luther Burden. I do feel that ultimately Luther Burden is going to be the guy who's going to be running a lot of the same route trees that DJ Moore does in the near future. How soon that will be, I'm not sure, but I do think he's the guy that they plan to replace him with further on in the future. But I do like Rome Odunze, Luther Burden to stack along with Caleb Williams. Michael Penix is also a bye week 5. I'm perfectly fine grabbing him as well. I'm not worried about that. I've mentioned this before, but guys like Caleb Williams, as high as I am, he's my highest exposed quarterback. I'm a big believer in Caleb Williams, and I do think under Ben Johnson, he's going to grow a lot more. And for fantasy purposes, I think he's going to pay really good for it as well. But I like 3 quarterback rooms for players like him and even Michael Penix. I think Caleb has some rushing upside, not as strong as the Jaden Daniels of the world and other guys later on, but or like the Justin Fields who just got selected there. But I do like his opportunity. John, how do you feel about Bill and the Washington backfield? Bill, Ja'Cory, Krosky, Merritt, JCM. I like it. I'm a big fan of his. I think that he becomes RB1. I think it's his job to win now. I know a lot of people are concerned when they look back at his numbers and they think it's Austin Eckler's older, y'all. Chris Rodriguez has been there for a while. I mean, I do believe all those guys are going to have somewhat of a role, but I think it is JCM's backfield right now. And we'll see as soon as week 1. I believe they play the New York Giants, if I'm not mistaken. We'll see. But I think it's his right now, John. And I think trading away Brian Robinson Jr. this early on kind of paved the way for their at least how they feel about him. It was very early to do that trade, and I think that by doing so, they knew exactly what they have in that running back room, and I think he's the reason why. All right, we're coming back here. Tight end. I can go tight end here. This is definitely going to be a tight end room. We might get like 3 guys in, and that's fine too. I love 2 in here as well. I think that upside wise, yeah, let's grab 2 in. I'm gonna go with 2 in, like Braylon Allen as well. But we're gonna go 2 in. I think 2 in ends up being a big part of that offense as well as the season goes on. I've mentioned in the past 2 in has the type of. Here, 1 second. Did someone take Kyle Pitts already? Wow, I missed that. Yeah. Someone wants Michael Penix. We're going to take Michael Penix here. I need tight ends. We'll get tight ends shortly. I'm not going to force that. But 2, and going back to 2, and I think I've mentioned in a previous stream before, I think 2 in's upside is like what Devon Achane has given kind of like Miami, that kind of burst. He's very explosive and was at Virginia Tech. He's a really good player. All right, we're going to take Michael Penix here. 2 quarterbacks, like I said, both by week 5s. Let's see, who got Kyle Pitts? Yeah, there he goes. Pick 126. They thought Penix was going to fall to them. I have Drake London. I wanted that combo. So as we get to round 13, 14, my focal point now has to be the tight end position. Tight end position out of all the roster spots I've talked about is, quarterbacks, you can't afford a risk of 0. Running back room, can't afford a risk of 0. And the wide receiver room, can't afford a risk of 0. Tight end room, you can. There's a lot more. I mean, it's harder for tight ends to hit on a week-to-week basis. So I think your chances there when building that room, you could take more risk. So there are some tight ends. Let's pull some tight ends up here. We'll see how they start dropping. Dallas Goedert goes. I do like Isaiah Likely in drafts. Look at his ADP, 175. Prior to that injury he had, he was getting picked up in the right around where Colston Loveland and Tucker Kraft were getting picked up. So that's anywhere from 110 to 125. You're getting him at 175, and I think the latest report was he might be back within week 2, week 3. Again, I'm going to be drafting a few tight ends, so I'm not opposed to this. We're hearing good talks about Chig Okonkwo. I'm taking risk here. Brenton Strange would be perfect right here if he somehow drops. I also like Hunter Henry. I think Hunter Henry doesn't get enough love. And one of the interesting notes about Hunter Henry is that the previous season to last year, obviously, where he had a really good season was under Josh McDaniels. And Josh McDaniels is back in New England. So that's going to be really helpful for him, as he's also really the only tight end in that room over there in New England. Yeah, New England doesn't have anybody who's really standing out as far as the tight end position goes. That's going to be all Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry already has a rapport with Drake May. We might hold off of Isaiah Likely, as I spoke so much about Hunter Henry. We're going to try to aim for any of these 3 guys up here, these veterans. Mainly these 2 are veterans. Man, Hunter Henry's been in the league for quite a while. Hunter Henry, I remember Hunter Henry, I think he was with the Chargers back then. Really good. He was always hurt, but anytime he was on the field, he was good. Quishon Judkins, y'all, I forgot about them. The news today is that they're expecting him to sign his deal this week. So that's huge for that pickup. Let's go Brenton Strange. And then we'll look at Hunter Henry if he's still there. Brenton Strange is another one. Starting tight end, starting to really come strong last year. He was a big waiver wire pickup in home leagues. And I think Jacksonville really likes him too. And so does Trevor Lawrence. And we got Tootin as well. And I understand I'm looking at my running back room as well, guys. I do see 3 by week 8. That's also going to be a bigger room we're going to fill shortly. We are also at a spot here where we have some quarterbacks on the board. Can I afford it? I think so. I think since I'm already going deeper at tight end, my quarterbacks are going to start flying off the board. Let's go with Cam Ward. I'm big on Cam Ward this year, y'all. I mentioned for yesterday's stream that it is currently posted. If you guys check it out, if you haven't watched it yet, I gave a pretty maybe hot take, but I think that this offensive line for the Tennessee Titans, I'm a big offensive line guy. I really, really love offensive lines. But I do think that they're going to be, by the end of the season, I think they're going to end up being a top 10 offensive line unit. They added a lot. They already had Lloyd Cushenberry, who I believe is expected to come back healthy this year. He's their center. They got Moore at left tackle. They got J.C. Latham at right tackle. They got Skoronski at left guard. And then right guard, they just added Kevin Zeitler, who was with the Detroit Lions last year, who's a veteran, who's been around the league for quite some time. But I think it's a great veteran to add to that line. And as long as they stay healthy, they're going to be a really solid offensive line. Their offensive line coach is also Brian Callahan, the head coach's son, or head coach's father, I should say, Bill Callahan, who's a renowned offensive line guru coach in the league. Been with the Cleveland Browns. He's been around for a while, and he does a really good job developing offensive lines. So if he's building that offensive line, which he's been working on since last season, I trust that, and it's going to be good. And it looks good. So far on paper, it looks really good. Jalen Coker was a name here that's been flying off the boards earlier since we got the news that he's a starting slot receiver. Really good player. Really, really, really good player. came in as an undrafted free agent. Last year's draft, it was such a deep wide receiver draft. Had it not been so deep, he absolutely would have been drafted earlier than obviously not getting drafted. That's how talented that kid is. We have some quarterbacks here. Oh, as I was going to say, I was going to say we can get Chig, Okonkwo to pair, Cam Ward. As much as I would like to, I'm not too worried about that right now. Let's see here. We're going to focus on the tight end, but we also need a running back to start focusing on these bye weeks. All right, let's go Isaiah Likely since he's still out there, and I think he's solid and helps out this room a little bit. Let's go running back. Keaton Mitchell, Chris Rodriguez, DJ Giddens, Kyle Manungai. Wow, we are at this point here. Let's go Keaton Mitchell. We're going to go with another Baltimore guy. I like Keaton Mitchell. Keaton Mitchell's been hurt. Had he not been hurt, we probably would have saw more of him last year. I know we've been seeing a lot of Justice Hill, and people like drafting Justice Hill. That's not really a guy I like to draft. Maybe in PPR formats because he's a guy who catches the ball out of the backfield. But when it comes to a guy who can really give you some juice, a guy who can really, help break a slate 1 week for you, that's Keaton Mitchell. The times we've seen him before his injury, breakaway speed is incredible. He's a huge home run hitter, and I think they're going to start utilizing him more. Todd Monken, I bet you any money he's a big fan of this kid right here. Derrick Henry's only getting older. I know I hate to say that, y'all. He had a phenomenal year last year. I'm sure he's going to have another good year. If something were to happen to Derrick Henry, you got to start talking about who is back there in that backfield. And again, we are taking shots. That was round 16. We have 2 more rounds to go. Let's see, we got 3 quarterbacks. Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Cam Ward, running backs, Ashton Genty, James Conner, Jordan Mason, Bashal Tuin, Keaton Mitchell, wide receivers, Drake London, Mike Evans, Tet McMillan, Roma Dunze, Keon Coleman, Luther Burden, tight end room, Bretton Strange, Isaiah Likely. I think I'm just going to leave those guys there. I'm going to add maybe 1 more receiver and 1 more running back based on the depth that I am currently seeing. We're going to try to take a shot. Dameon Pierce. I think Dameon Pierce has a really good shot at being running back 1. Yes, I said that. Running back 1 for the Houston Texans. There's still a very cautious approach I'm having with Nick Chubb. I loved Nick Chubb prior to that. Kyle Manungai has some upside later in the round. So there's Roshan Johnson once we find out who that guy is. Blake Corum would have been nice, but I have a ton of bye week 8s. I think at this point, I really want to be very cognizant of those decisions. And then right here, let's see. I wouldn't be opposed to Jalen Wright either, because at some point in the season, he'll come back and you would think he'll be in good position. I like Quentin Johnston here for wide receiver. We're just going to round this out, y'all. Cam Ward, I'm okay without a pairing for Cam Ward. In a perfect world, I would have liked those guys, but Chig was taken right before me. Ian Moore, the kid from Stanford, the rookie this year, was also taken right before me. There goes 2 running backs. Let's get Dameon Pierce. And I think I have a shot here at Adonai Mitchell. If not, I don't mind. There we go. All right. Adonai Mitchell, round 18. I'll keep mentioning it. If you've never seen any of my videos, he is my highest overall exposed player. I am very, very in on Adonai Mitchell this year. I think he has a shot to be a stud for that offense. pull up the board here. I'll do a quick recap of this team. And then let me see if I can let's jump on one more team here. Seki, Alec Pierce, De'Ami Brown, Darren Waller, Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart's been an interesting pickup late rounds too. If you think he's going to start at some point in the season, he's not a bad move. I think he does. I think they end up starting him. Russell Wilson's going to obviously start the season. I like their quarterback room. I love that Jameis Winston is technically QB2 right now as well. So you don't have to force the young guy into playing until he's honestly ready. And if they don't feel he's the right guy for this year, or they don't want to force him out there too early, they can. They have two solid quarterbacks ahead of them. All right, let's recap this real quick here before we jump on another draft here. We got quarterback Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Cam Ward. At running back, we have Ashton Genty, James Conner, Jordan Mason, Pashal Tootin, Keon Mitchell, and Damian Pierce. Wide receivers, we have Drake London, Mike Evans, Tet McMillan, Rome Madunze, Keon Coleman, Luther Burden, Adonai Mitchell. And then the tight end room, we have Brenton Strange and Isaiah Likely. Would be awesome if Isaiah Likely comes back ready to go. If y'all remember, week 1 of last season went off. I think, if not, he had like double-digit catches, and he caught for over 150 plus yards, if I'm not mistaken. But he played really well. Monken kind of utilized him a little bit, like he was using Brock Bowers at Georgia when he was out there running the offense. It was really cool to see that. I'm sure there's still a massive plan for him. He did sign his deal right before his injury, so there's definitely a role for him. All right, let's go back here. Let's see here. Ready? Let's do one more here. If you guys want to hop on, BBM 6 is where we're drafting currently right now. We're waiting for 4 people. I'm sure today being Labor Day, everyone is jumping on to do drafts and to get them all done before the regular season starts. Again, that starts Thursday. We have Cowboys at Eagles Thursday. I'm not sure how that's going to go. It's not just Micah Parsons getting traded. Dallas Cowboys also lost their left tackle for a few weeks. That's going to be tough. And they weren't doing really well stopping the run as well. So I'm kind of concerned for the Dallas Cowboys and their fans. All right, we are drafting from the 6th hole here. This is obviously a different look now because I'm right in the dead middle here as opposed to the 11th hole. See what we can start gearing towards. A lot of, I mentioned a lot of folks around this time of the year, they are basically trying to push their exposure a little bit more. So they're going to go after some of their players in the first round. For instance, if I have a ton of Malik Neighbors, I might go Malik Neighbors, pick 6, and do it just a few spots above ADP only for the sake of getting more exposure to that player. And in my case, I have a lot of Christian McCaffrey in the first round. That's someone I wouldn't mind getting here. We'll see how this turns out. And who goes? I would assume it's going to be Jamar Chase. I've been in a few drafts where you've seen Bijan go here, number 1. But nope, it's going to stay. Yep, there you go. First 2 picks that we've been accustomed to, at least for the last month in best balls, has been Jamar Chase and Bijan Robinson in the 1-2 hole. 3 is where it gets usually interesting. Is it CeeDee Lamb? Before it used to be Justin Jefferson. Gibbs has been a big one now, and we're seeing Gibbs come off the board. All right, let's see who we get here. Does Saquon go? Does Justin Jefferson go? Because I'm ready to go. There goes Justin Jefferson. I'm ready to go Christian McCaffrey. Again, I have a lot of Christian McCaffrey. I believe that he's going to be healthy. There's no risk you don't take when you take. I mean, there is a ton of risk that you're willing to take when you take Christian McCaffrey. So you already know that going in. Same could be said about a lot of other guys. But I do love Saquon. There's no harsh feelings towards Saquon. Right now, Christian McCaffrey, this might be it. This is the last time we're ever going to see Christian McCaffrey fall to the 6. If he goes off this year, once again, I know he's getting older, but next year, if he has a monster year, which is what we're all hoping for, at least the folks who are drafting him, you better expect them to go top 2 for sure again. And this opportunity we're getting now to draft them where we're drafting them won't come again. I am open to getting, let's see here, another running back. We might start off strong here, depending on what happens on these next 3 picks here. This draft is going by quick. I love that. That's going to be great. All right, there goes Derrick Henry. I'm cool with an HN or Chase Brown here. Bucky Irving. Okay, so we're going to get one of these 2 guys. We don't need wide receiver right away. I'm interested to see how far A.J. Brown goes because I know people are concerned about it. This is a fun one. I think I'm going to go Chase Brown. I do have a lot of CMC and HN to start off a few best ball drafts, only because people are concerned about HN. But we just got reports today that HN is back to practicing this morning. I believe Mike McDaniels mentioned that this morning. Let's pull up the board. So we started off Christian McCaffrey, Chase Brown, and A.J. Brown gets picked up. Let's see, what was the news that we got on HN? Yeah, Mike McDaniels mentioned that he will be practicing as of this morning. That's big news. Really big news, especially if you have drafted him. Yes, sir. Chase Brown all day. Chase Brown last season, that was fun because when you were drafting that backfield for the Cincinnati Bengals, a lot of people were torn between Zach Moss or Chase Brown. And we knew that one route was going to end up paying off. Thankfully, I was on the right side of it. Chase Brown was the guy who ended up going off and now is RB1 for the team. But when you look at it from a scoring perspective, I got and understand why people were drafting Zach Moss. You had to stick to one side or the other, in my personal opinion. It was not going to be a good idea to get exposure to both sides. You either take the hit or you take the loss. And I was grateful that I ended up taking a hit, the right hit, the good one, with Chase Brown. All right, we're about to come up here. Tyreek Hill. Everyone's concerned about Tyreek Hill, and rightfully so. I don't blame people for being worried about him. Give me 1 second, yo. I'm just trying to see. Let's do Lamar Jackson. I haven't done a draft where I get Lamar Jackson. I think there'll be some good wide receivers here. We're going to go Lamar Jackson. We are talking about playoff opponents. The Baltimore Ravens, Week 15, face off the Cincinnati Browns. Week 15, I expect starters to still be out there. Hopefully that's a game where we see the Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens put up a lot of points. Yeah, since we have a pick right dead square in the middle, we have a good shot at still landing some quality wide receivers. There goes Tyreek Hill. He left right away. Marvin Harrison, JSN, George Kittle. There goes Jaden Daniels. This is when we start seeing a little bit of a quarterback run. Pick number 1, if you're looking here, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. That's a very common theme. I'm always interested to see who's the first one to snipe that individual. But yeah, pick 48. I've mentioned this before. This is exactly where you just draft Joe Burrow and don't try to sit and wait on him. In previous drafts, a few months ago, there was times where I was able to get him in pick 72, round 6. You have no shot in getting that now, especially with the way people are drafting, especially right now, and the way ADP has fallen. No one's going to let you wait that long. That is an absolute steal. But truthfully speaking, with the way Joe Burrow is for fantasy, as far as a fantasy quarterback goes, he should be going around there. He should be going around somewhere in the late 60s, early 70s, in my opinion. I don't think he should be going this early, but when you do have a stack, it doesn't hurt to jump all over that. All right, I'm coming up here. I'm actually on the clock. Who do we want here? I like Travion Henderson here. George Pickens, Jameson Williams. Let's go Cortland Sutton. I was going to take Calvin Ridley there. Let's go Cortland Sutton. I have exposure to him. I don't have as much as I would like to. Wide receiver 1. The last preseason game that he played, it was really cool to see. He was getting peppered like crazy. I think he had I forgot how many catches he has. I mean, I could pull that up real quick, but yeah, it was cool to see. It's just interesting. Sean Payton is just so creative. I'm really, really curious to see how the Denver Broncos look, and then year 2 of Bo Nix. We'll see if Evan Ingram is truly that Joker role to start off the season, and how soon do we see RJ Harvey, because J.K. Dobbins is going to be the starter as far as week 1 goes. All right, we're going to probably, let's see here. I do like Breece Hall. Breece Hall has dropped a lot. I get why people are concerned. I'm willing to take a shot on Breece Hall, especially in best ball. Perfect. At this point, if he drops to pick number 54, all day, I'll take him. But would not surprise me if Captain Nate here, who has no running backs, takes him. There goes Jalen Hurts. He's probably trying to fool everyone and thinking, I don't need another quarterback, and hope Joe Burrow drops here. But I would gladly take Joe Burrow at pick 67. Why? So if he thinks Joe Burrow is going to drop to him because he took a quarterback, he or she, not happening with me in this draft, at least. Let's see. I think he takes Breece Hall here. If he doesn't, I'm perfectly fine taking wide receiver. There you go. All right, Breece Hall's here. I don't hate this. I love this, actually. I like this start. And then now I can focus a little more at other positions, especially if Joe Burrow ends up being there. You can look at this wide receiver room and say, yeah, there's a lot of help needed. All right, we'll see. Let's pull up the board. We got 10 picks before my next pick. Rashee Rice, pick 55. Again, he is suspended for the first 6 games of the season. If you think he's going to still pay off his ADP, it's not a bad pick. I'm actually interested to see how Kansas City Chiefs looks Friday night when they face off the Chargers in Brazil. We are hearing a lot of news that we might see the old Pat Mahomes offense when Tyreek Hill was there. So if that's the case, you're going to see guys like, obviously, Xavier Worthy have a really fun year, and guys like Hollywood Brown pay off as well. They're going to look good. Matthew Golden, pick 58. I like Matthew Golden a lot. Mecca Ibuka. Let's see here. Deebo Samuel. Alvin Kamara. Captain Nate is going to need a running back real soon, but I don't hate his start so far. Appreciate you, Bearded Mamba, joining. All right, we have Chris Olave. Yeah, there goes Bears fans 247. All right, thank you. That actually helped me a ton because then I can just focus at the wide receiver position. And we're going to take Stephon Diggs. Man, Tony Pollard still being out there would have convinced me to take him as well. I'm going to take Stephon Diggs. There are other options on the board. I do like Jordan Addison, but he is also out for the first 3 weeks of the season. And my wide receiver room has one guy. It's time to start putting more players in there. But yeah, Stephon Diggs is wide receiver 1 coming off of an injury. I mean, here's the reality, y'all. When it comes to fantasy football, anybody coming off of an injury will bring question marks and concerns, and rightfully so. But if there's one thing I've ever learned about fantasy football is going far, far back. I believe it was Adrian Peterson back then who tore his ACL. And I know Adrian Peterson's a different animal, different beast of a athlete. But coming back as soon as he came back from his ACL tear and was able to give you the year he gave you, everybody, literally each body heals very differently. Breece Hall was another one just a few years ago. I was grabbing him in the 6th round that year. I was able to hit big, and I was getting Breece Hall in the 6th, 7th round. And look at this year, getting him in the 5th round. I don't hate Breece Hall there. And if Breece Hall gives me anything near that, who we already know how talented he is, he's already shown us, flashed all that upside, I'll take him there all day long. There goes a running back run. That helps me out a ton. Wide receivers. Again, we don't have to force it. I'm also good with Sam Laporta here. But I do like Jawan Jennings. If I have a shot at Jawan Jennings here. Nope, there he goes. That was happening to me a ton yesterday in yesterday's stream. And I wasn't even live. Every time I mentioned a player, he was getting picked up right there and then. There goes Jacoby Myers. I might do something different here. I might go Keon Coleman. I'd look at these 3 guys, and again, half PPR for Underdog Fantasy, and I think of someone who might score more touchdowns out of these 3 guys. I like Josh Downs a lot, but I think Keon Coleman becomes more the red zone threat guy. We spoke about Sam Laporta. He just went. Yeah, let's go Keon Coleman here to add more to the wide receiver room. Let's see here. Thank you guys for joining me on my first live show, first live stream. Feels different. It feels weird, obviously. But I plan on doing this more once this regular season starts this week. I plan on doing it on Sundays. I will be doing, I think, as of right now, my plans, and then obviously I'll let you guys know, is to do 10 a.m. Central, and I'll be on for at least 30 minutes for start and sit questions. We can talk a little bit about players we are in on. And again, this is a community. Love for you guys to jump in the comments that same day we go live and kind of help each other out as we make picks and make the right picks to win our matchups that current week. All right, we got Michael Pittman, Jaden Higgins, Cooper Kupp. Let's see who else we have down here. I think I did like Warren there. I do love Jordan Mason still. There is a guy who's down here. Let's see. Rashad Bateman. Where's Mark Andrews? Let's take Mark Andrews. Let's get my little stack here for Lamar Jackson going. I'm going to get a tight end. I know there's still more room needed here, but I don't want to. There's no need to panic, y'all. Jordan Mason, that's a great pick for Captain Nate. Did he end up getting? Yeah, there he goes. He got 2 running backs. It's not a bad start for him. But he didn't get Jalen Hurts for his A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith stack. That's a stack. That's a stack that I'm not too high on. When drafting Jalen Hurts, I prefer just a single stack with him. He's also a guy I don't mind drafting on his own. I've enjoyed drafting Hurts with Saquon Barkley in half PPR. I think that's a nice little combo. One of them is going to score a rushing touchdown. Why not get both guys, the only 2 guys who get the rushing touchdowns on that team? All right, we're about to come back up here, 4 picks away. We can use another wide receiver. Let's see here. Bill Krosky Merritt is still on the board. J.K. Dobbins is on the board. Let's go wide receiver. Out of these guys here, I'm going to take Luther Burden. Again, this is best ball. Best ball, highest scoring player will take over your starting spots. I need pure upside here, and he brings that. Also, playoff opponent, week 17, San Francisco and Chicago. Not a bad combo there. There goes Colston Loveland, Kyler Murray, J.K. Dobbins. Cool with Rashad Bateman here to continue a stack. Keenan Allen. We'll go wide receiver. There goes Rashad Bateman as I started talking about him. Shaheed, Kirk, Keenan Allen. There's some good options still left on the board. I don't hate Drake May, where I have Stephon Diggs. I might go down that route, actually. As long as Drake May is still on the board. We'll find out because Porky's here doesn't have a quarterback. It takes Justin Herbert. All right, let's go with Drake May. Let's do something a little bit different. Again, you can look at your team when building your team. There's no need to panic. You can look, running back I feel solid with, but wide receiver, I can look at this real quick and just be like, oh, still need more. Still have 8 more rounds, 7 more rounds after making that pick. But there's still opportunities here to add. And again, I'll mention best ball format. Highest scoring player takes over your starting spots. So I like this quarterback room already. I think that this is a solid room to keep at 2, especially with one of the elite quarterbacks, fantasy quarterbacks. And that's Lamar Jackson, along with guys like Josh Allen. Jaden Daniels is in that conversation now, and Jalen Hurts. Those are the elite tier of quarterback. Panicking is part of the fun. It really is. It's also fun to watch people do, especially during home leagues. I'm in a league where I feel there's a lot of panicking that happens. What makes it fun is when there's a shorter clock, just like we have right now in best ball. We are at 20 seconds. That's how we've been drafting for the last couple of months. You got to think quick. You got to act quick. I was in a draft the other day, and it was like 1 minute and 30 seconds. That's insane. 1 minute and 30 seconds, 2 minutes. That's way too long for a home league draft. You, by now, most people who are drafting and doing fantasy football, you guys should know who you guys want. I did an offline draft yesterday, and we had someone take almost, an offline draft. We don't have a clock, unfortunately. And we had someone take like 4 minutes just to make the 6th pick. I was going crazy. All right, we're back on the clock here. A lot of wide receivers are off the board. That's okay. Running backs here. Let's see. Why don't we take Braylon Allen? If indeed Breece Hall does not end up being the guy early on, then I got the other guy there. I still think even if Breece Hall doesn't end up being the guy for the New York Jets, he's going to be the guy for some team because someone's going to trade for him 100%. But Braylon Allen is going to have a role on that team one way or another. All right, we're 8 picks away. Let's go wide receiver here if we can. Josh Palmer, Hollywood Brown. I like these. Makai Collins, how many teams do you usually try to draft in each tournament if you can't max each tournament? And that's a good question. It really just depends. I like a lot of the single entry stuff that they do drop on Underdog, but there's also 5 entry max, 3 entry max, even the 20 entry max. Those are the ones I do max out. The other ones were like the $3.50 max ones that they have. I'll try to jump on those and max them out. My goal ultimately is to continue to build a bankroll so that I can ultimately max out Best Ball Mania. My goal is for next year. That's the goal right now. Max out Best Ball Mania by next year. I've done some higher dollar ones too. From at least here. Hold on. We still have Josh Palmer, Hollywood Brown. Let's see, what route should we go? Like the idea of Hollywood Brown early on, and I already have Keon Coleman. Let's go Hollywood Brown here between those two. I don't mind getting both, but yeah. Going back to that, I think that there are current, like the Husky, the Rottweiler. The Rottweiler I think was like $25 entries, 4 entry max. I was able to max out both the first and the second one, but those are the ones that fill up the quickest too. So if you're trying to max out those, you got to jump on those quick, only because I think that those have a better payout structure. They're easier to advance in, and ultimately I think when it comes to your return of investment, they have a better chance of doing so. Because Best Ball Mania is going to be much harder. Obviously, $2 million up top. There's a lot more money that they're giving out, but there's so many more people in these pools, which is why there's a need to be very different when building these rosters. I've done different things. Like I said yesterday, in yesterday's stream, I was able to do 2 quarterbacks unstacked just to try something different. It doesn't hurt. I've done one in all streams. I've done a Caleb Williams, for instance, without a Colston Loveland stack, but getting a Cole Kmet stack and some Alamade Zacchaeus later in the rounds, just trying to get different things, different looks at things. Justin Fields, I actually got Jeremy Rucker a few times. I think Jeremy Rucker ends up having some type of role on that team, and if you're getting him week 18, you don't really need much for him to pay off of that ADP. Most round 18 for people are usually zeros. All right, we're about to come up here. I like Cedric Tillman if he ends up being here. I have this tendency of saying something and then they're gone. I don't mind Brian Robinson Jr. too. I mean, this isn't a home league, but I don't mind handcuffing my Christian McCaffrey here, and Brian Robinson Jr. goes. That's perfectly fine. I'm okay with that. I do like Cedric Tillman. Cedric Tillman should be a big target guy for Joe Flacco. I know Jerry Jeudy had a lot of spike weeks last year, thanks to Jameis Winston and his effort. Someone's out there throwing of the ball, which was fun. It was fun to watch too. I always enjoy watching Jameis Winston play football. He's crazy, but for fantasy and daily fantasy, he's fun to stack. He's so fun. He's always good for one crazy interception, but then also good for like 300 to 400 passing yards, and his receivers always eat. All right, let's see. Who do we have here? Lamar Jackson, Drake May. Hunter Henry went too. Interesting. Let's see. Demiro Douglas. I don't mind Douglas either. Xavier Leggett. I didn't take Ted McMillan, right? Earlier? No, I didn't. But I did mention him. Let's take Xavier Leggett. This is his opportunity, y'all. Jalen Coker is out. He's currently on the IR first 4 weeks. Xavier Leggett was a high draft pick for the Carolina Panthers just last year. I believe second round, right? If I'm not mistaken. I might have to look back to that. Or late first even. I have to check that. But Xavier Leggett has an opportunity now more than ever. That's not to say Jalen Coker was already taking his role, but just one less person to worry about that was already shining in the preseason. Obviously played well last year. So I don't hate taking a shot on Xavier Leggett. Running backs here, we got 6 picks away. Don't mind taking shots on guys now. It feels like a good time to add to this running back room. Tight ends were solid. I know we got Mark Andrews. Don't mind getting another guy shortly. Don't hate, what is it, Isaiah Likely still out there? I know I have Andrews, but I wouldn't mind getting Likely and then getting a third tight end, just because those 2 guys are big targets for him. Let's go running back. The running back position starts flying off the board here. But it feels strong so far. Christian McCaffrey, Chase Brown, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen kind of take care of each other here. I would love Najee Harris if he happens to be here for me. I think that's the route I want to go. I don't mind Tajay or Rico Dottle. Thank you guys once again for joining me. Please hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. I plan on doing more as we continue. All right, Najee Harris is on the board. For those who haven't watched, I've mentioned a lot about Najee Harris. This was a guy we were drafting earlier. His injury, obviously we're hoping his injury isn't impacting him early on. He's expected to practice. He's already, there was a lot of talks about him playing week 1. Apologies. If so, getting him in round 15 is really good. Greg Roman's offense and Jim Harbaugh, there's a lot of running of the football over there, and I don't know if Omari Hampton takes on that role that quick. All right, we're coming up here. Let's see. So we got a running back. Don't mind tight end. Cade Otton is also another guy we're not really paying attention too much, but he played well last year, especially given the situation, there he goes, that they have right now with their pass catchers. He's not someone really bad to take a shot on. Mason Taylor just went. I don't mind getting like a Darren Waller later. Darius Slayton is not a bad play here. Let's take Slayton. I don't have much of him, but I don't dislike him at all. Actually, I think Slayton would be really good for this room here. Yeah, we're going to take Slayton. All right, we're up to 8 wide receivers. I like where we're at in this wide receiver room. We have Cortland Sutton, Stephon Diggs, Keon Coleman, Luther Burden, Hollywood Brown, Cedric Tillman, and Xavier Leggett. Yeah, it's a solid wide receiver room. Not, there's not a lot of star-studded guys, but guys with some type of defined roles. There's a lot of wide receiver 2s here, but once again, wide receiver 2s with roles. I like this running back room, and if it ends up panning out the way I want it to with these top 3 guys, one of these guys are going to be taking the flex spot. Let's go tight end here. There are a few tight ends that I've kept my eyes on right now. I I really like Darren Waller right now. I don't know why. This could be a big better move, but I mean, can anyone name me the other tight end for the Miami Dolphins? Is it Julian Hill? I'm not even sure. And if so, they're probably blocking tight end. I know Dermot Smith is now with the Chicago Bears. That was another tight end that was with Miami. But as far as the other guys go, I can also take a shot at Jatavian Sanders here, who could have a big year. I might go down that route. Let's see. Xavier Legette. I got some Carolina Panthers. That's okay. I don't have a lot of exposure to Miami. Harold Fanning just went there. I have a lot of Jatavian Sanders. Let's add some Darren Waller. This is round 17. I like taking a shot on him. He's going to be a big red zone guy for them. Hopefully, right, is what we are hoping for. And could be a big player for Tua. All right. What is a look here that we can use? Who's the best player on the board? We can go running back. We can go wide receiver. I think the tight end room is just fine. We don't need a quarterback. I've taken a lot of Dameon Pierce now after what I've mentioned. I don't mind DJ Giddens too. Something were to happen to Jonathan Taylor, DJ Giddens is expected to be the guy. Yeah, I kind of like the shots we could take down here. We might go down this route here, y'all. DJ Giddens just goes off the board. Kyle Monangai, Roshan Johnson, Dameon Pierce, even Blake Corum is someone I'm interested in. I think it was bye week 18 for Atlanta, and we did get, let's see here. We do not have an Atlanta player. That's fine. That is fine. Look at, there goes a running back. Run. Got a Chicago guy. Yeah, we're going to go running back here. Kendre Miller is also interesting. He is running back 2, as far as we know right now. I don't hate Kendre Miller as an option. I might actually consider him. You know what? If he's there, I'm going to take Kendre Miller. They don't really have anybody outside of him. And even Clyde Edwards-Helaire just went to the Kansas City Chiefs. Not saying that he was going to be that big of a threat, but again, it's fun. Kalman and Guy already went off the board. All right, we just completed this draft. Let's pull up the board here. Let's see how this ends. There goes Dameon Pierce. Make sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I appreciate you guys staying on. A little over an hour to do 2 drafts is not bad at all. Sometimes it takes you 50 minutes to an hour to do just one, which is crazy. All right, let's see who's Mr. Irrelevant for this draft here. Michael Wilson's dropped. KLS for the Chargers here. That's fun. Tyler Lockett. Oh, that's nice. Even with Cam Ward. All right, let's do a quick recap of our team. We have Lamar Jackson at quarterback, Drake May at quarterback. We have Christian McCaffrey at running back, Chase Brown, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen. We have Najee Harris and Kendre Miller. I feel pretty solid about this running back room. At wide receiver, we have Courtland Sutton, Stephon Diggs, Keon Coleman, Luther Burden, Hollywood Brown, Cedric Tillman, Xavier Legette, and Darius Slayton. At tight end, I have Mark Andrews, who I'm hoping stays strong and can really anchor this room. But most of all, Darren Waller. Round 17 isn't a bad shot to take, especially with no real competition out there in Miami. Thank y'all so much for hopping on. I really appreciate y'all. Yeah, I'll keep you guys posted. Again, Make sure to tune in this Sunday. I'm going to go live. My goal right now is 10 a.m. Central. That would be 11 a.m. Eastern. I'll make sure to give you guys a heads up and get that stream scheduled for you guys to hop on and ask your start and sit questions, and also going to walk through some final thoughts on daily fantasy as we try to lock in our lineups for that day. And yeah, some more content this week. You'll see. I'll make sure to keep you guys posted. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all. Peace. Take care.